All right, guys, we appreciate you coming in tonight. We are live here from Fernandina Beach, Florida at the Amelia Angler. Great tackle shop, store run by Terry Lacoste. Also a great backdrop for us and venue to do this webinar out of. If you're in the area, definitely stop by and check out the Amelia Angler. They can definitely outfit you with all your needs. Again, we appreciate you for coming in and checking us out tonight for the Cobia Crazy webinar. Pro tips for catching more cobia. I'm also down here with my redfish tournament partner, Captain Jeff Crumpton. You can tell them a little bit about yourself here in a second. We also have got the Zman giveaway tonight. For one lucky attendee viewing live, we will randomly select after the webinar is over, and I will send you an email and let you know and get all your contact information and send you out the prize. Zman is giving away the Heroes, which is the 8-inch cobia bait, as well as the Headlocks jig heads. So it'll be a nice prize package for someone tonight. And we'll get into the first page here in a second. All right, we're working again. About me, I'm Captain Stephen Fields out of Charleston, South Carolina, professional saltwater guide. My company is Charleston Fishing Company and Redfish Tournament Angler. You can check out my guide site at charlestonfishingcompany.com and my professional angler site at fieldsfishing.com. Both of them will offer a good bit of information, have some nice videos, tips, and tricks. Again, my guide site's more geared toward the charters, and my personal angler site, you can keep up with us on tour, on the Redfish Tour, and all the stuff we get into. Fun times. And here's the guest speaker I have with me, Captain Jeff Crumpton. He can tell you a little bit about himself.
Good evening. I'm Captain Jeff Crumpton. Live here in Fernandina Beach about 13 years now. I've been guiding since 1992. Redfish tournament angler. Love to fly fish. Love to share the information that I've learned over the years with you guys out there, and look forward to having a great turnout tonight. And if you guys are here in the Amelia Island area, be sure to give myself a call, jeffcrumpton.com, or the Amelia Angler, Captain Terry Lacoste. We all work together here as a team to make everybody's experience a great one.
Hey, he's definitely going to bring a wealth of knowledge to this webinar. He knows cobia just about as good as anyone. Pretty much the overview for tonight. Again, we appreciate you for attending. The presentation is going to last approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and we're going to have questions and answers at the end for approximately around 20 minutes, give or take. We're going to start out talking a little bit about the Cobia migration, when it begins, which parts of the southeast you can target cobia and what times. Going to targeting cobia, where to find them and what to look for, setting up for success, effectively targeting and fishing for cobia, the setups, rod, reels, terminal tackle, live, cut, and artificial baits, and how to rig them. And we'll get into some fly fishing for cobia, which is Captain Jeff Crumpton's specialty here. He knows how to get after them with a little buggy whip. And then we'll do the questions and answers at the end, of course. First of all, the Cobia migration for the southeastern coast, South Florida, the migration is going to start out in the winter, and they're going to move north along the east coast as spring and summer approaches. On the Gulf Coast, down towards southwest Florida, it's going to start more in March, and they're going to move up the coast as summer progresses along, and then come back down the coast in November. In the early part of the run in the spring and summer, or winter for South Florida, the cobia will stay off more on your nearshore reefs and move in as the warmer weather approaches. And on the run back in the fall or late summer, they usually stay off the coast a good bit, off the wrecks. But you can really target these offshore throughout the year, really. We see them pretty much anywhere from spring through the fall. Targeting cobia, where to look. Sight fishing for cobia, that's the number one deal. That's the best, most effective way to target them and increase your odds of catching them and landing them. Inshore targeting ledges around sandbars and humps, rises in the contours at slack tides. And nearshore, targeting reefs, channel buoys, and running off the beaches. A few things to look for when going after cobia as far as sight fishing goes. You're looking for marine life on the surface, sea turtles, rays. Those are all good giveaways. These cobia will hang out underneath and around these marine life. Look for the push. Cobia make a very distinct V shape or a tight U-shaped push as well, more kind of like a crab buoy with current moving over it. It's very noticeable. You can see that from a pretty good distance. And when you get up to the fish, definitely a tip we have, look more into the water than at the water itself.
Mm-hmm.
Looking into the water as you approach the fish, you'll actually be able to see the brown bomber, as we say.
The man in the brown suit.
That's it. As far as inshore goes and targeting cobia on the ledges around sandbars and the humps or rises in the contours at slack tides, definitely these areas are more around main rivers and inlets that are open to the ocean. In my area, we're lucky and blessed to have the Broad River in the Beaufort area, as well as St. Helena Sound. Those are two major destinations for inshore cobia. It's almost getting to the point you can walk across boats across the river. But a lot of the sight fishing spots for these cobia inshore, you're not going to have the boats anchored up and drifting the live or cut bait. So you're going to have some water to yourself. It's a skill and a tactic that a lot of guys don't use. So you can kind of separate yourself from the pack and get out on your own a little bit, get some untouched fish. Looking at this Navionics chart I brought up off my Navionics boating app here, I have a few things marked. At the top, you can see the hump. This is actually a rise in the contour. It's kind of a sandbar that's not exposed at low tide. It still has water over it. And then you have the ledge, the drop off toward the bottom. It goes anywhere from 6 foot down to about 15 or 18 foot on that ledge drop off. And the tighter the contour lines, these are like fish highways. The bait are moving in from the ocean and swimming along these tight contour lines. It's their I-95 or I-26. They really follow these tight lines. In cobia, they're gonna position themselves on leeward sides of these humps or sandbars and wait for the bait to get pushed to them. So these are great areas to target and set up and start looking for cobia. As far as sight fishing goes, slack tides inshore are key. That's really when you're going to get the most opportunities to sight fish these cobia. At the bottom, again, you can see the sandbar and the ledge that runs tightly to it. It'll go from about 2 foot down to about 19 foot on this ledge. And this is actually a screenshot of one of my cobia spots, so it's legit. You can read into it. You can apply this to a lot of different areas and target those areas for cobia.
Community edits and update the chart.
Nearshore, targeting cobia around nearshore reefs, channel buoys, and running off the beaches for cobia, which is kind of Captain Jeff Crumpton's forte here in Florida. They're running the beaches and sight fishing for cobia a lot more than I do in my area. We're pretty much sight fishing around the reefs or inshore. So I'll let him talk about how they go about running the beaches.
What I like to do is I like a high sun. If I'm running towards the east and I'm starting out, I'll go ahead and sometimes just make the long run out past all the sea buoys. So as the sun's rising, I have it to my back. And I will, if I'm targeting cobia off the sea buoys, what I'm doing is deep jigging. If in case the cobia is not on the surface, see if we can bring a cobia up to the surface. And at that point, if they did not hit the jig head or the live bait that we're using, I might have a suspended bait, usually a popping cork on 60-pound test with a live shrimp. Sometimes I've had refusals on crabs, menhaden, also known as a bunker or a pogie. And I've found over the years of my past experiences, a big jumbo live shrimp is usually not refused. Also, I'm looking at the bait pods. A lot of times I'll have clients, guests say, hey, do you see that shark over there? And I get all excited, and I'm like, that's a cobia. That's a cobia. And great eyes, guys. You're looking through the water instead of looking at the water. And we'll pitch a bait to them or a fly at that point. That's predominantly how I like to fish for the cobia, is checking the bait pods and also checking all the sea buoys. And the bonus might be a triple tail off the sea buoys early in the season. The earliest I've caught a cobia here in Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island, of the 13 years I've been guiding here, was about 6 years ago. It's February 28th. We had a group charter here out of Amelia Angler, and I said, you guys want to go do this? It's a little early. Look for some cobia. And they said, yeah. And so I said, let's go do it. So we ran out, checking all the sea buoys, just kind of drifting around off the channel, as we were talking earlier with the ledges, contour lines on your charts, on the Navionics charts and stuff. I just drifted off, and a lady looked over and said, what is that? I said, that's a cobia. That's the man in the brown suit. She pitched the bait to it, and we were fortunate to have one that early in the season. Generally, our season gears up around March, middle March on till about July.
Yep, and our season on the Carolinas coast, it gears up about April, late April through May into June. So we're a little bit later than the migration than Florida is, but definitely want to get out there and target these species. This species for the brief period you can. It's pound for pound, it's one of the hardest fighting fish you can have on light tackle. Real fun. Again, as far as near shore, especially in my area, where I'm definitely going to check the channel buoys on the way out and on the way back in. You never know; these guys can be hanging around those channel buoys. Also, the nearshore reefs that I'm running out to, we're targeting reefs in the 30 to 60 foot of water. For the most part, it's nearshore reefs in 40 to 60 foot of water, but I still check those 30 foot reefs out. A lot of times, our fish in the Carolinas areas, we're sight fishing these guys morning to early afternoon, and then they kind of go down after that. That's just kind of their forte in our area for some reason. So to bring them back up, we'll use anything from chum, or we'll just jig off the bottom in the reef. I'm using my sonar to pick up the reef structure, of course, looking for bait fish hanging out and cobia if I'm marking them, lucky enough to mark them on the sonar, and jigging those guys. As far as we'll get back into sight fishing here, sight fishing for cobia is the go-to method. Always have a rod rigged and ready with a pitch bait. And as far as running around, hitting all the nearshore reefs, running the beaches, and looking for marine life and cobia on the surface, covering more water equals more opportunities. And being elevated and being able to see these guys from a long distance away is key. So being elevated equals better sight fishing opportunities. Anywhere from casting platforms we're putting on our boats now that are well anchored, of course. You don't want anybody falling off or tie strapping a ladder up there. Make sure you have a well anchored casting platform, as you can see on the picture on the left, the bottom left. That's Captain Jeff Crumpton's casting platform with a little sissy bar around it so you don't fall out. And I'm not making fun of anybody. I love my sissy bar. And or upper control stations on bay boats are great sight casting platforms themselves as well. Setting up on a reef, in my area anyways, the cobia love the nastiest reef structure at each particular reef. So we're having to get down and dirty. I'm prepared to lose some jigs because you're not sight casting. You're going down there and getting down and dirty and jigging for these guys. You're going to be bouncing and hitting structure to get in the right spots. But using a bucktail jig is very effective. A lot of times I'm putting a Menhaden trailer on it, or a shrimp trailer. That works just as well. Definitely using my sonar to locate the reef structure and suspended fish. Looking for those hard reef returns on the sonar. You're going to get those thinner red lines for that harder return. And you'll clearly be able to see the structure. Using sonar, down scan, side scan, use all the technology you can to your advantage. Definitely my Navionics charts put me right on the reefs. Saves a lot of time, and I can better position myself quicker than a lot of the other boats that are running out there. If I'm spending the money to get out there, I want to be in the right place at the right time first. To bring up, I updated my Navionics charts this morning just to make sure I have the most updated information out there, and And that's important to me because I'm doing a lot of sonar logs as well, and updating my contours and my charts. So I'm getting those updates for that. As far as when I get on the reef and set up, again, I'm using a weighted bucktail jig, plain, or with a live or artificial trailer, such as menhaden or a shrimp, jigging it in and around the reef structure. Don't get discouraged. Definitely bounce around a little bit and keep hitting the structures until something happens. You definitely want to cover all the water you can. One of my tips is I'm always going to free line a few live or cut baits off the back of the boat. That means no weight, so they're just sitting back there in the current. For unseen cobia coming up to the surface, those guys can pop up and you're just not looking in the right place at the right time, and they'll pick up one of those live or cut baits a lot of times. Or even though it's not a cobia, a king will smoke it or something. That's something else to reel in. So that's just one of the things I always do when I'm out there, just for some species I might not be able to see. Also chumming. That can a lot of times bring the cobia back up off the reef. So I'm going to get a nice little chum bag back there. You can buy these chum bags or blocks, or you can make your own. I like to freeze a lot of menhaden after the season and then grind them up and create my own little chum bags. Save some money. Also using menhaden oil as well. You can get a big old jug of that stuff. A lot of times I'll take a plastic bottle or a PVC pipe and kind of create a little bottle, and I'll drill holes in it as small as you can, but you want the menhaden oil to be able to escape, and then kind of tie it off to a cleat and let it sit in the water. And that menhaden oil really creates a great chum slick off the back. I coat a lot of my baits with menhaden oil. It's nasty, it stinks, it's messy, but I've had a lot of success with that. I've had one cobia take my bait coated in menhaden oil. I'm fighting, it's swimming around the boat, but you can see the menhaden oil slick still coming out of his mouth, and you got these other cobia following it up. It creates a great opportunity for doubling up on these fish. That's just a cool thing that I do. Also, if you can get these cobia up to the top, tossing out a few cut baits to keep them interested and keep them up, such as, menhaden or whatever bait you got laying around. That's pretty key. Jeff, you got anything about setting up on reefs to add?
Always just keep an eye out, looking around the boat. You're going to catch a lot of other species of fish, and as long as you've got a pitch bait ready, on a medium heavy action rod, that's one of the keys to success. And not much more than that. Sometimes I like to throw something at them they've never seen. I might throw a frog at them, artificial frog.
It works. He's done it.
Which is a bass lure. If you look at the bottom right corner, the gentleman holding about a 35-pound, 40-pound cobia that was caught on a frog, which is a bass fishing lure. So don't be afraid to try something different other than, everybody wants the eel or a grub type pattern for a trailer. I like to think outside the box and throw something that maybe attracts their interest when I get a refusal.
Yeah, he's got a great point there. I'm glad he brought that up. These cobia have seen a lot of stuff on their migration up from wherever they're coming from. They've seen a lot of stuff. So, putting something out there they hadn't seen can be, the difference between, getting a bite and not getting a bite. We'll get into some of the rod and reel and terminal tackle setups we use. This is not an end-all, be-all. We've caught plenty of cobia on 4,000 reels or 5,000 reels. This is just kind of, go-to setups for hooking a cobia and getting the cobia to the boat. So using anywhere from 6,500 to 8,500 spinning reels with, mostly 7 foot plus. The longer the rod, the further you're going to be able to get that cast out there and the more accurate you're going to be. So 7 foot plus, medium heavy action, fast tip spinning rods, 30 to 60 pound braided fishing line. And we use anywhere from, 50 to 60 pound fluorocarbon leader line. Again, this is not end all be all. Plenty of time situations I'm only using 30 pound fluorocarbon leader line. This is just to get them to the boat. A lot of times I'm not out there to just have fun. I got clients on the boat, so I want to be able to get to these fish to the boat as quickly, as safely as possible, get a nice picture for the clients. The knots we're using, we're going to tie our braided fishing line straight to our leader line material. The two main knots that we use, Captain Jeff Crumpton uses the reverse Albright knot, which is a great knot. I use more of the double uni knot, also a great knot. There's also the new FG knot out there. That's a real good one. It's more slimline. It's not going to get caught up in your guides as much. That's a great one to check out. You can check out both of these knots at netknots.com. They'll have some nice videos there for you guys on how to properly tie these. The knots we're using from the leader material straight to the hook or our lure is going to be the non-slip loop knot. That's going to give it more action. That's more of a key knot when it comes to artificial baits that you want to have that extra little bit of live action to them. Great knot for anything from jig heads, swim bait hooks, or hard baits. There's also the uni knot. If you want to, it's more cinch down knot to the actual eyelet of the hook. That's a great knot as well. I know on a lot of swim bait hooks, there's a little bit of opening a lot of times on the eyelet of the hook. This is more the knot I will go to when I'm on that. The loop knot sometimes can slip out of a little gap or open it. I don't want to chance that. So I'll use the uni knot to cinch it down to the hook a little bit better. Or
you can use the uni knot as a loop knot as well. It will slip down after a fish is caught, but it's a great knot.
You'll have action until you do set the hook. Good point. Some of the live baits and cut baits we're using to target cobia. There's a lot of baits people use for cobia, anywhere from blue crab to shrimp and all that. I'm just kind of, again, just doing a little overview of the main baits that we use to target cobia. Menhaden is definitely the number one. Easy to catch, easy to see, popping up off the surface and cast net. I will rig these free-lined on a live bait J hook or circle hook, 6/0 or plus, below the 2 to 4 foot fluorocarbon leader. I will also rig it on a bucktail jig for jigging purposes, getting down deep. As far as free line goes, that's a pitch bait setup. You're able to pitch that bait off the surface and work it in the immediate water column with the fish on top of the water,
as well as letting that fish free line behind the boat and free swim as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the live shrimp is another great bait as well for sight casting to these guys. A lot of the artificial baits I'm using to target these cobia, as far as soft plastics go, is the Zman Heroes, which we are giving away to one lucky viewer, of course. The Heroes is an 8-inch soft plastic. Zman does use that Elazitech plastic, so it will have a little bit of flotation to it, which is great. Gives it a lot of action. You can use a little bit of weight to get it down a little bit. Very effective. You can catch, I don't know how many cobia without that thing breaking either. The Elazitech is tough, very strong stuff. I rigged the Heroes on the Headlocks jig from Zman using the 8/0 jig head. 1/2 ounce to 2 ounce or a little bit more. It just depends on your current depth situation, how much weight you need to get it down and around these suspended fish. Also, the Zman Mag Swims, another great cobia bait. It's an 8-inch bait as well. Rigging it on the same Headlocks jig, the 8/0, 1/2 ounce to 2 ounce, or a little more, depending on the current and depth what weight you need, anyways. Some more artificial baits that I used, a little bit more smaller profile as well. You definitely want to try and switch things up. As far as the popping cork setup as well that Jeff Crumpton covered a little bit earlier. I'm using the Z-Man grass kickers. It's a little bit smaller profile bait, rigging it on a weighted swim bait hook. 5/0, 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce weight, just enough to get it under the surface and in the right water column with this fish on top. It's a little bit more of a subtle profile as well. And, the weight is going to depend on the current and depth conditions on how much or weight you're going to use there. The popping cork setup is basically a beefed up version of your Inshore popping cork setup, using a 4 to 6 foot fluorocarbon leader.
1/4 ounce jig head.
1/4 ounce jig head or a 1/2 ounce jig head, just depends. Most of the time you're fine with a 1/4 ounce jig head. 4/0 to 6/0 hook. It really depends on your bait and what hook works better in that presentation. Rigging it with a artificial Z-Man shrimps, which are scented with Procure bait scents as well, which gives off a great little slick. or live shrimp as a trailer. I know Jeff uses these popping corks, and he can tell you about the application a little bit better than I can, probably.
You know, it was a funny experience. I was out there with a good friend of mine. And, we had a cobia come up, and he was just refusing everything. And I'll get more into the fly fishing and how this happened with the artificial fly shrimp. But I said, I have some live shrimp for my morning charter. I said, hold on just 1 minute. And I said, keep him entertained. We're pitching some little pitch baits, little chunks, throwing little pieces of shrimp out. And he was just refusing everything we were throwing at him. So I went back, grabbed a popping cork. And in fact, it was on a 4,500 reel, 20-pound braid. And the only thing I changed out on it was the leader. The fish was suspended at anywhere from 3 to 4 foot of water. So I put some 60-pound fluorocarbon leader on it, a 1/4 ounce, I believe it was a 4 or 5 hook, and found the biggest jumbo shrimp I could find in my live well and pitched it out. I let it drift in. If I came too close to the sea buoy, the fish was going down. So I stayed off, looking and watching how the current line, he was setting up, facing the current, like in a little eddy behind the buoy, and I let the cork drift right in there. I said, when the cork goes under, just start reeling and give him a hook set, a count. And when I say a hook set, cobia have a hard mouth. So you really want to set that hook, pump it 3 or 4 times, make sure you've really got that hook lodged in their mouth, and hopefully it won't fall out on you.
Great tip, especially targeting these cobia around these sea buoys, the channel buoys and channel markers. You can definitely be a little more stealthy and float these corks in there, and they're going to be in the right water column because you have that set on your leader on your cork. Just a great little tip to use. Using a lot of hard baits as well, sight fishing for these fish. It's a little more aggressive of an approach to sight fishing these guys, but it's very effective at times as well. I like the Live Target Menhaden twitch bait. They make all kind of different sizes, but when it comes to nearshore and bigger fish or offshore, the bigger the better. I will use the 4.5 inch, 1 1/4 ounce sinking version of the Menhaden. And I like the sinking version because you can kind of control the depth. It's not going to just stay in one level. You can work it real fast and keep it a foot under the water, or you can work it a little bit slower and go down to 6 foot. As well as the blueback herring swim bait, a 6.5 inch version, 2.5 ounce sinking bait. Again, it's you're going to be able to keep it in pretty much whatever water column you want, just depending on the speed you're working it. As far as working these hard baits, it's pretty much the walk the dog technique, twitch, pause, just like you're fishing topwater for largemouth bass or inshore species such as redfish or sea trout. Very effective baits to be able to get that more aggressive bite, whereas these fish might not hit a more gentle approach.
Reaction strike.
That's what I was looking for. And then we got fly fishing for cobia, whole different ball game, whole different challenge. It's really fun getting after them with the buggy whip, and there's no better man to learn it from than Captain Jeff Crumpton here. He is a fly fishing specialist.
I'm always learning, but the fly rods I like to use a 10 to 12 weight, preferably a 12 weight, depending on the size of fish I'm seeing. It might even have an 8 weight out there if I just want to really test my equipment and watch how well it does hold up. But when I'm fly fishing, I usually use a 12 weight. Leaders, store-bought leaders are great. Orvis always has a whole line of leaders, or your local fly shop will. I like to make a lot of my leaders, being a guide, because we just go through so many leaders and stuff, and I keep it pretty simple. I call it the Lefty Cray formula. I'll put 60, 40, 30. It's 60-pound test. It's 4 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot. It's leader with a 60-pound bite guard. Being it's a heavier bite guard, I like to use a figure 8 knot or the Slim Beauty knot to attach that leader, or you can use a uni to uni knot. But I'm attach it. The reason we don't go much more over the 60, 40, 30, 30 being the tippet like area, is because most fly lines are 30-pound tests. So you don't want to go 60, 40. You might have a chance of breaking your fly line and losing everything. Actually, as far as the lines, I like to use a weight forward floating line. as well as a sinking line. A lot of times we've got a lot of current here in Northeast Florida, and I'm sure in Charleston area as well with our big 6.5, 7 foot tides here. And I believe Charleston has like 7.5, 8 foot tides. And when that current's ripping, I found that the lure wasn't getting down to where I needed it to be. So what I decided this, I'm going to get a full-blown sinking line. And it works great. You know, I usually on that type of setup, I'll just use a 3 to 4 foot leader, 60-pound test. And yeah, I've got a chance of breaking the fly line, but if you have your drag set right, you don't try to horse the fish, you're going to land a lot of fish. The rods I use is a Helios 2 rod, which is a great rod. There's several other great rod manufacturers out there. The Mirage reel, smooth drag. Drag is everything on any reel you purchase. But that works well. A lot of times they're close to the boat, so you don't have to make a huge long cast. Cobia are curious fish. They love noises. The sound of the motor is not really going to affect them. The clanking of the boat, sometimes that actually attracts them. But that's the basic setup that I like to use. And as far as flies, we're going to flip to the page for that. And as I say, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of John Baker. Great fly tire. Him and I started tying flies together around 1990. He ties for some different people and also ties as well custom orders. We'll get you that information here in the question and answer, or you can shoot me an email. The Baker shrimp pattern, the lower version, that's the shrimp pattern. And then you have the purple and black. That's an articulated fly, double hook. Check your regions for regulations if you're allowed to use double hooks or treble hooks. We just tie it with the Gamakatsu, I believe it is, hook he uses, or an owner. And it's articulated. A lot of the other ones, a articulated fly as well. We're using like 4/0, 5/0 hooks, and then that's the Baker bait fish pattern up above, the green and yellow. As far as colors, as long as the fish can see it, that's the key. If you want to match it, you know, dark water, dark colors, light water, light colors. Those are just some of the colors that work great for me in my area here in Fernandina Beach. And hook size is usually 3/0 to 6/0. But those outfits right there really work well. We'll go on to the next page here. So techniques for fly casting. I like to have someone in the cage, is what I call it, which is a casting platform with a 360-degree railing. So I can run and gun. I'm checking sea buoys, and a lot of times I'll actually, a little trick around the railing if you want some padding up there is go get your little round tube floaties at one of your local stores, and you cut them in half right down the middle. You slice it down the middle, and you can put a little padding railing around that. But I'm checking the sea buoys, having my clients cast into there. Generally, this is more sight fishing, so if we don't see the fish, I might jump down or have the other client while one's fly casting trying to jig up a cobia if it's down deep. If they hook it, that's great. If not, then usually they'll definitely eat a fly. Checking the bait pods around the pogey pods. A lot of times you'll see openings in the middle of the bait pods. That could be a cobia, but in my area, a lot of times I find that's a bluefish or maybe a king coming up through the middle of them. A lot of times when I'm seeing the cobia, they're on the outside edges of it, and it will look like a shark. That's, to me, it doesn't, but the man in the brown suit's what we call it. I had one lady, I said, she goes, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, that's the man in the brown suit." And she was like, "I thought you were talking about the game warden." I said, "Oh no, we're catching cobia. That's the man in the brown suit." But I also keep some pitch baits in hand, just in case they're not interested in the fly. I'll pitch some baits just to keep him around. Cobia is great table fare. Being able to cast 50 to 70 foot in most conditions is key. Even though you'll have a lot of casts in the 20 to 25 foot range, a good roll cast is really good to have. Something quick to get it out there, have the fly in hand if you, or just hanging off the side of the boat. The main thing is watch out for T-tops or the guy up in the upper control station so you don't hook your captain. But the basics, the most you're going to have to cast, the reason I say 50 to 70 foot, if you're casting that on most days, when we're running and I'm throwing the boat in neutral because we see the fish or you see the fish, you're going to have to be moving. The momentum's still going forward. You're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to step around to the left or to the right to set up for your cast. Also, being able to cast over opposite shoulders, cast into the wind, release with the wind towards your back, let the cast go off your back cast is really key in some of those conditions. If you guys want, we'll move on. That's a beautiful cobia we caught fly fishing, and we'll move on to the next page here.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to kind of end this on is a little bit about regulations. You definitely want to check your state regulations. There's been some closures for sure, especially in my area in the Carolinas. And you know, these fish, I mean, if you're not going to keep them, there's no need to gaff them at the boat. If you're just wanting a quick picture and a release, definitely get you a big net. Make sure these fish are calmed down before you bring them in the boat. They're notorious for their second wind. You know, you bring them in the boat when they're still green, they'll get that second wind. I've seen them clear decks. They're flopping around, hitting coolers, breaking rods, breaking arms, legs. I mean, it's dangerous. Make sure these fish are tired down. Definitely be appreciative of the opportunity and take care of these great fish that we have. And
if it's, our area is 33 inches to the fork.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, you have, you know, if you see a fish and you're not sure if it's legal, just net the fish, because there's no need in gaffing that fish. But I will give you this tip as well on gaffing. It's almost like you're hoeing a garden. If you have like a hoe, when you go to gaff that fish, instead of taking a head shot, a lot of times you want to take it right in the meat. The head's very hard, and it's very likely you're not going to stick that gaff in his head. So usually we'll come in behind the shoulders where the pectoral fins is to gaff these fish.
Definitely, again, we appreciate you all attending.
Absolutely.
Here's a few links, you know, navionics.com. Definitely appreciate everything all these companies have done, and being able to allow us to bring this webinar to you guys. Definitely check these guys out if you can. A lot of great products out there. Again, my name's Captain Stephen Fields. I appreciate you guys listening to me and looking at me all night. You know, you definitely follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever other social media I might have out there. I have plenty of them. CharlestonFishingCompany.com is my guide site. FieldsFishing.com is my angler site. Definitely keep up with our tournament season schedule on the Redfish Tour, and a lot of personal appearances and seminars and dates that I might be available as well. And you definitely want to check out and find out more about the upcoming webinars Navionics offers. Check out navionics.com and join the mailing list. Also look at the full schedule of the upcoming webinars. There's a lot of great stuff out there. I'm not just a viewer. I mean a participant and do these webinars. I'm actually a viewer as well. I check out as many of these webinars as I can. The day I stop learning is the day I stop fishing. You can never stop learning. There's a wealth of knowledge and information out there, as well as past webinars that have been recorded and placed on the website you can view as well. This one will be up shortly, I promise you, on the Navionics site. And that's about it. And definitely check out jeffcrumpton.com for the Florida area. We definitely appreciate, again, Amelia Angler here in Fernandina Beach, Florida, Amelia Island. Captain Terry Lacoste for giving us this great backdrop and Wi-Fi connection to be able to do this. Great stuff.
2 books, Redfish, Captain Terry, and Kingfishing. He has several books out. Be sure to stop in and say hello to him.
And now we'll move to questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and click on Q&A, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability and get through as many as we can.
Sound and video good, okay.
Tammy asks, I've only seen them swim as loners. Do they swim in schools?
I will see some pods.
Yeah, you'll see pods of cobia out there. It just depends. When they're on rays, you're going to see a little wolf pack of these guys together. And I've had it so good to the point on those miracle days where you'll have 4 or 5 at the back of the boat around a ray. I mean, you can almost hand feed them off the back of the boat. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times they're loners, but you will see little wolf packs and pods of these cobia swimming together.
I've seen as many as 10 or 12, 15 to 20. Loners are usually, I believe, the bigger fish that I'll see.
You think about it, yeah.
Depending on how much pressure they're having. I don't know what area you're from, but by the time they get up here to Northeast Florida, they've seen a lot of different lures and more boats fishing for them. They might get scattered around a little bit.
All right, Anthony, can you troll for cobia?
I'm sure you could.
I'm sure you could. I have never done it. You know, I'm not going to say no. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have had success doing that. You might want to get out and try it and get a nice YouTube video of it. You can start a whole new following. I wish I had more information about to talk about that to you, but I just personally haven't trolled for cobia, but I'm sure it's possible. Anything to watch out for when dehooking? Sharp teeth, spines, gill rakers, etc.
Goodbye.
Rough edges. In
their
mouth.
mouth.
I mean,
Well, the mouth's more like a bass mouth,
yeah,
freshwater bass mouth,
or a Kentucky bass, just more rough sandpaper. I always use a little bit of gloves.
They do have the dorsal fin area. They have like a ridge of sharp little spikes that come.
Yeah, stay away from that.
There.
Be careful. It's like catfish.
Just before like
sharp.
their dorsal fin area.
But, you know, I get a good handhold onto their bottom part of their mouth, which is usually protruding more forward than the upper part. It's easy to get a grip on there. Get in behind the gill plates is another great way to get them.
Or use
the net or dehooker, and you ain't got to worry about it. Does fish chum work better than frozen?
What I like better about frozen bait, it doesn't come out as quickly.
There you go. It's going to last a lot longer. You can almost fish all day on one block of frozen chum. I think it works about the same, to be honest with you.
Well, it was fresh at one time.
Yeah, as far as chum goes, I think it works about the same. So you're good to go. The main reason for me using fresh or more recently caught menhaden chum is cheaper. I didn't have to buy it.
The prime distance offshore for cobia off the East Coast, it varies. You've got ledges or wrecks. You can be year-round. Generally the cobia are offshore more, and as the season warms up, the water warms up. We didn't really talk much about the water temperature, but
70 degrees is usually the magic temperature when they show up.
Right. Well, we did mention eels. Some people like to use an eel with a single hook and a treble hook trailer.
As far as rigging eels, like he said, single hook or a treble hook trailer. So you're going to rig up a double hook rig.
Double hook rig, nice.
With that and get that single hook usually up at the top part of the eel, more towards the head of it, and that treble hook running back down towards the end of it. These suckers are slippery. I mean, there's a lot of bait shops that sell these guys. I don't use them as much as I used to. But one tip and trick I have for fishing these eels, I'll actually, once I have them in the live well, and I try to keep them settled down as best as possible, I will actually bring a little bit of sand on the boat. That allows me to get a bit of better handle on these guys. I'll stick my hand in the water, get it wet, and then I'll get some sand on it, and then go to grab these eels. That just gives me a better grip on these guys. I don't use the 2-hook method as much. When I was doing it, I was just using the single hook method and getting it across their back. These guys are gonna have a lot of action to them in the water, and it's a great little presentation for sight fishing cobia. A lot of the artificials we use mimic these eels. The Mag Swims by Zman and the Heroes by Zman. Those are all mimicking eels for the most part. So great question. I apologize that I didn't put that in the webinar.
Eels,
that's a great one.
Baits.
That's it.
With crabs too. Is that all the questions?
We'll give it a little bit more. See if anybody else has any more questions in there.
Let's review.
When fishing a tide line, what side of the water do you focus on, clear or darker water? That's another great point. A lot of times off the beaches with the tide lines, you're going to have the darker and then cleaner water. Of course, a lot of times they're going to be right on that cleaner side. They're going to be right on the edge of that. That's what I've noticed anyways.
Occasionally I'll sit on the darker side and cast out into the lighter water, and they might be just right on that break line, waiting to ambush, almost like striper fishing or nighttime fishing for snook. You know, when the lure comes out of the light into that dark area. That's a great question. I've fished the tide lines, but usually I'm looking in the clearer water, or I'm out in the clearer water looking back in along the break line just to see if I can see a fish maybe hiding underneath that tide line. But most of the fish that I see, other than deep jigging these fish up off the bottom or catching them on the bottom on the wrecks and reefs offshore, I'm seeing the fish and then casting to the fish.
And another question, how have you seen the size and numbers of cobia caught over the last 3 to 4 years? I'm guessing you're just asking, have we seen it change? What are the differences? It's year to year. It'd be great to have some scientific information to go along with that. I know in the Carolinas we have some tagged cobia, and I think in the future we're really going to start learning a lot more about these fish. I've noticed, 3 years ago, the cobia, it was a little bit slower. I don't think as many fish moved in close as they have in the past, but there were bigger fish. It was a great big fish year. And then a few years ago, there were more fish, but they weren't big. It was kind of year to year. I don't know. It has a lot to do with the weather as well. Late cold front, stuff like that.
Last year, I'm sure I know the guys south of us down around Palm Coast, Palm Valley, Daytona area had a great run. We just had a lot of wind. Smaller boats weren't getting out, the 24-foot, bay boats and stuff like that. 20-foot boats if it's a flat day. But the run's been great this year. Hearing of a lot of nice fish being caught. Been catching a lot of nice fish. Last year was a good run. We just had certain days that we weren't able to get out. Fishing the nearshore stuff or inshore in the bays. A lot of guys during the drum run, they'll be dropping down and fishing for black drum or late season, and next thing you know, they're hooking up with a 70-pound cobia that was probably moving up into the rivers to do their spawn thing. And that's a great question.
There's another one. Is there a lure effective on cobia? We went over a few of them in the webinar. I hope this is answering your question. If not, feel free to email me at sfields@navionics.com, and I'll get you a better answer if I'm not doing it right. But I went over, as far as soft plastics go, the bigger soft plastics by Zman. I used a lot of my favorites, the Heroes, which is an 8-inch soft plastic bait, kind of an eel imitation. The Mag Swims, another 8-inch soft plastic bait, large bait fish imitation, also can be, considered a eel presentation as well. I'm using those on headlocks, jig heads. Those are great pitch baits, sight fishing baits. Also some hard baits such as sinking twitch baits, suspending twitch baits. The Live Target makes a great menhaden sinking twitch bait, as well as the blueback herring sinking twitch bait. I'm using the bigger versions of those. They have anywhere from small to big. I'm using around the 4.5-inch version for the menhaden twitch bait and the 6.5-inch version for the blueback herring. Hope that answered your question, Gary. Give it a little bit longer, see if there's any more of these questions going to be coming in.
That's great.
All right, guys. Still waiting to see if there's any late questions. If not, we can go ahead and end this thing. Again, I appreciate everyone for attending. I hope it was informative to you. If you have any questions, again, refer them to sfields@navionics.com, and I will get back to you in a timely manner. This webinar is being recorded for future viewing. It will be on navionics.com under the webinars here shortly. Again, check out all the other great webinars Navionics has coming out. And we really appreciate you guys
Thank you very
attending.
much.
And y'all have a good night. Tight lines.
Tight lines.